Sarah? developers going on here in GitLab, and that's actually kind of nice. So I'm going to go ahead and click on New File, and I'm going to make a file. So again, I did not have to do any of the complicated stuff that you normally have to do when thanks guys, when you have to pull stuff in. So here I have a new file, and I'm going very slowly here because I don't want to leave anybody in the dust. You can actually select a different template type, all that kind of thing. Thanks. And then we're going to go ahead and create a file name. Now, in this case, I'm going to create a file named called readme.md. And the reason I'm doing that is because readme.md is the default name for notes and readmes, both on GitHub and GitLab, and I believe the world. In fact, if you want to learn more about that, I'm creating a project called README World, which is basically the collection of all the readmes out there that people want to share. And so GUIs are slow. Yes, that's tomorrow. We're going to do it for tomorrow. So master readme.md, and make sure you put your title in there, and then we're going to go to the bottom, scroll down, and go ahead and click on commit changes. And this is equivalent of save. Git purists are really going to come unglued to a lot of the things that I say here, but I don't care. I'm talking to the beginners. So click on commit changes. No, all caps are readme.md. It's very important you do all caps readme.md. So again, I did not have to do any of the complicated stuff that you normally have to do when thanks guys, when you have to pull stuff in. So here I have a new file, and I'm going very slowly here because I don't want to leave anybody in the dust. You can actually select a different template type, all that kind of thing. Thanks. And then we're going to go ahead and create a file name. Now, in this case, I'm going to create a file named called readme.md. And the reason I'm doing that is because readme.md is the default name for notes and readmes, both on GitHub and GitLab, and I believe the world. In fact, if you want to learn more about that, I'm creating a project called README World, which is basically the collection of all the readmes out there that people want to share. And so GUIs are slow. Yes, that's tomorrow. We're going to do it for tomorrow. So master readme.md, and make sure you put your title in there, and then we're going to go to the bottom, scroll down, and go ahead and click on commit changes. And this is equivalent of save. Git purists are really going to come unglued to a lot of the things that I say here, but I don't care. I'm talking to the beginners. So click on commit changes. No, all caps are readme.md. It's very important you do all caps readme.md. So that's what I'm asking you to put here. Okay, so stick with me. Now down here you can actually go ahead. Whoops, I don't know if you can see that because it's kind of covered by my head. But if you can't, here I'll move. Am I out of the way? So you click on find the edit button. Okay, and yeah, you want to create a new directory to leave. Why? So here we're going to click on edit, and then from the edit, we can go ahead and type some stuff in here. And what are we going to type in here, right? Well, let's just type something simple. So let's just say, I don't know, my notes, right? Okay. You guys see that? Oh boy. I'll stick right there. So my notes. Okay, so your first markdown is the hashtag. Hashtag turns a markdown into a just a regular line into a header one, and so there we go. And so here we go. So readme.md, my notes. It's nothing fancy here, and then down here we click on commit. Again, this is where Git purists will really come unglued because like you're going to do one commit just for one line in your notes file. And I'm like, yes, I am. It's just a notes repo, dude. Chill out. So here we see that the notes are showing up, and we get a header and it gets rendered. I don't dare turn my dark mode off for you. It probably hurts you. But you see the point. You get automatic rendering of your notes. And believe it or not, you can actually eventually link notes like this directly without turning them into web pages. It's so easy to make them a web page that you probably want to just stick with the web page. But it's not that bad to have a notes file in Markdown right here that will be rendered. Okay, so what I actually wanted to show you right now is the Web Ide. So that what we use is we use the simple editor with the edit button, which I think is my head over it. Edit, can you see it? And this is not unlike the GitHub one. So the GitHub one is edit. And then the next one is Web Ide. It's right next to it here. And I haven't seen that one. Display rendered file. That's a new one. I haven't seen that one. Has it always been there? I guess it is. Oh, it is. That's the one we're on right now. Okay. If you want to see the source code, I guess you can click here and see the source. Oh, that's cool. Okay, I didn't see that before. Anyway, so we're going to click on Web Ide. And this is where it can get, normally you're just fine using the edit tool, and it's faster, to be honest. Yes, I've got, do you guys really want to see the non-dark mode? Okay, cover your eyes. Cover your eyes. Here's what it looks like without dark mode. I believe there is a dark mode for the editor, but I do not believe there's a dark mode for the entire interface to GitLab. So I have dark mode enabled. Okay, so when you click on edit, you want all the information, whatever. The goggles do nothing. So let's click on Web Ide while we have it in this blinding white mode for a second, so you can see what's going on. We're going to click on Web Ide, and oh, I forgot about this. So I do have dark mode for the Web Ide, so I forgot about that. You can set dark mode for the Web Ide. The keyboard, and then so now I have the same My Notes thing here, but here's something cool. Look at this. So you can click on it. Edit, and you can click on preview, and you can see what your notes are going to look like while you're writing them. Okay. Uh, and once again, I know there's other editors, there's lots of other ways to do this, but if you're just starting out, this is pretty convenient, you know, not to mention the fact that you can do it from anywhere, right? You can actually edit your GitLab stuff anywhere, and that includes source code, anything, and you can commit it right here and save it that way if you're brave. You know, of course, you would never do that with production code, but if you were working on a project and you just wanted to tweak it, or if it's just notes, this is one way to do that. Another big advantage of the web editor is I can upload files. So we're not going to do it right now, but just so you know, you can click on upload file, and you can go to your system and find a picture and upload that picture, and then include it and save it, and it will go here. Okay. You can upload pictures in GitHub as well using their editor, but this editor is a little bit more reminiscent of VS Code, or what you might experience with a visual editor if you are using a visual editor of some kind. So again, tomorrow is all about the terminal, so stay with me. But thanks for that, showing us where that theme is. So if you're working on another friend's computer and you found something you need to tweak, or really if you're working with really young beginners, by the way, I should mention that GitLab, one of the reasons for GitLab is that their policy on people under 13 using it is softer, and if necessary, you can start your own GitLab server. So I actually worked with people as young as 9 before, and GitHub has very, very strict terms about people under 13 and about sharing accounts, which means that parents can't create an account and use it with their children. It's very, very explicitly written in the GitHub policy, and that's a big deal when you're dealing with young people. So just a side note. So we have the preview Markdown over here, and you can do all this. So I think we're about ready to jump into Markdown and how to use it and what it's about, and how to publish it. So the last segment, during this segment, all we're going to do is learn Markdown and practice editing notes using the editor, and previewing it so you can see what it looks like. Okay, that's it. That's all we're going to do for the next segment, pretty much. After that, we're going to show you how to take these notes and go the next step and make a new repo, make a new group or project, whatever you want to call it, that has an actual website in it. And I want to show you how easy it is to publish a website to a service called Netlify, and that will be the second segment coming up later. So here we go. Let's do some Markdown. So the thing I'm about to refer to is all covered under rwx.gg/Markdown. And anytime we start talking about Markdown, those who know about Markdown have tons of opinions about what editor to use and what syntax to use and how to compile it and render it and whether you should use it or not, and how their favorite Markdown tool works better than another one. You know what? Those are all fantastic things for you to consider, and I encourage you to get a breadth of information about this and do your own research. But I'm going to kind of cut to the chase and get to what I recommend and why. So the first thing you need to do is understand what Markdown is. Grok Markdown, right? Markdown is a tool that is a syntax for writing that was invented by writers, not scientists. And so Markdown is a simple markup language. Markup, by the way, guys, what's markup? Markup is writing that is marked up for formatting symbols and syntax. HTML is an example of markup language. So is Markdown. So that's what markup is. Markdown was a play on the word because it was made by John Gruber and Aaron Swartz from Reddit fame. He was one of the co-creators of Reddit. And they were podcasters and writers, and they're like, you know what, this HTML sucks, man. I hate writing this stuff. And so they created a language based on a bunch of text formats that were being used for people to make documents that existed only as text, and then they said, well, what if we just wrote this little Perl script to convert it? And to this day, you can go find the original Markdown, which will probably pull up first hit during Fireball. There it is. And this, we've since come a long way from this. You should probably not follow this for anything. But this is the original. It's still there. He's still podcasts, by the way. And you can still go get the Perl script if you want it. So that is the original Markdown. He's chosen not to, just to give you a quick background on that, he has not been actively engaged in any of the work to standardize Markdown since that time, which has left the mantle pretty much on Pandoc's creator of JGM, who created, and he didn't create, but he's kind of spearheaded the effort for something called Common Mark, which was a movement to standardize Markdown, because with no direction, Markdown got really fractured really fast. And so that's why the rest of today I'm going to show you about something I call simplified Markdown, easy mark, or basic Markdown. And at one point I called it base ML. And the reason for this is because if you know the basics, which you can learn in 10-20 minutes, you don't need to stress the details about all of the extra power you can add. You can add those later, okay? But you just need to know basic Markdown. Why do you need to learn Markdown? Because Markdown is used everywhere. People write their notes in Markdown. People make books in Markdown. Reddit, Stack Exchange, Discord, all of them support Markdown in some form. Slack doesn't, by the way. Just saying. So there's lots of reasons to learn Markdown. I believe it's actually one of the most important, if not the most important language that is not taught anywhere. It's not taught in schools or anywhere because it's the language of knowledge. It's the syntax of knowledge source. And we're kind of cramming the knowledge source conversation, which is, I think, it was originally had its own week, into this week, but I'm gonna try to get through this really quickly. Okay, so here we go. Standard knowledge-based source language. Markdown has become the closest thing to a universal standard for writing all documentation today. In addition, authors can write textbooks and novels in Markdown. And when combined with a tool like Pandoctor, Markdown can be converted to every other format on the planet. Markdown is the only markup writing language that can claim this. Therefore, everyone should learn it, from those needing a solid, sustainable way to take notes to those creating entire knowledge bases. Ironically, Markdown is practically not taught today. Pretty much everything I said. If you want to know, well, why not Wikipedia or Wiki? You can read about that. I don't want to debate that right now because I want to get through the Markdown stuff. Suffice it to say that wikis address an entirely different need and are still far too technical for the average person to use. So here we go. Types of Markdown. Eventually, you'll want to use Pandoc Markdown for everything. In fact, this document is written in it. You can click on, you've been seeing me edit Markdown last night, the entire video during the night. If you want to see me editing Markdown, just watch that. Pandoc Markdown is far and away the most powerful, sustainable, and supported format for capturing knowledge source, which is why the R language project adopted it as their language documentation format. However, learning basic Pandoc takes less than 30 minutes, and it will work everywhere. What are the differences? Well, we have basic Markdown, which I just talked about. We have Common Mark, which was this effort from JGM and the gang to bring GitHub flavored Markdown, which is a disaster. There's a few good things that came from that, but most of them are just horrible. And they brought them together and say, hey, we need to agree on something here because everybody's going in different directions. And then you have Pandoc Markdown, which was with JGM, giving himself license to say, no, this is the most effective, my idea of what the most centralized Markdown should be. And dude, he nailed it. I mean, he really nailed it. Congratulations. I mean, everything from how simple tables are to everything else. And so the Markdown that I'm telling you is the first step in your knowledge of Markdown. You can kind of build on it. And then you can start to write entire knowledge bases in Pandoc Markdown, if not books, if you want to grow into that to that level, including references and blah blah blah. But basic Markdown. So let's do basic Markdown. And if you have, if you guys have your editor open, then you can practice with this. And I'm going to actually do this a little bit right now. So the first thing we have are paragraphs. Okay, so paragraphs are just long single lines that are followed by a blank line. That's it. So we already kind of did headers first, but let's go do a paragraph. Oh, that's right. I'm going to have to go back over here. Whoops. I screwed up. Here you guys. You still there? There you go. So in paragraph. So let's do a paragraph. This is a paragraph. I'm going to have to go fast here. Okay. And by the way, when you do paragraphs, just use one line. You know what else is a paragraph? This. Okay. Markdown accepts that as a paragraph, but that's a super bad idea. Don't do that because this. If you have modern editors will wrap properly if you make it one single long line, as an example here. If you don't do that, you get this. and you try to resize your Tmux pane, and you get this horrible disaster of wrapping. So just make your paragraphs one single long line, and you'll live a happy long life. Okay, don't mess with this ability to like put them on. That was because a lot of times they were reading text emails. One of the things that I disagree with the original Markdown founders is that you should have artistic flexibility in how you represent yourself in your code, and that is the opposite of efficiency. You don't want more than one way. It's why Python won over Perl. You want one best way to do something, and in my case, I think there's one best way to do paragraphs so that they wrap properly, and that is one big long line. All right, so there's a paragraph. Here is another paragraph. Okay, and then so that's a paragraph. You can preview it here. Click on the preview. Hey, look, we got two paragraphs, right? If you actually let me just show you, it would technically that is a paragraph, but just don't do that. Make sure there's one line. It's a little bit harder to navigate with VI, but that's fine. You're going to be okay. So here we go. Okay, and what else we got? And then we have, if you have an editor that doesn't wrap, Notepad is fine. You just have to click on wrap in Notepad, and you just have to activate and wrapping. So here's what we got. So formatting, 1 star for italics. I'm actually just going to let you do these things. I'm going to go through them, and we're not going to make it. Okay, so 1 star for italics. You can actually use underscores and a whole bunch of other things. Forget it. Just use 1 star for italics. All right. For bold, 2 stars for bold. Okay, you get bold. For bold italics, you get 3 stars for bold italics. Okay, 3 stars for bold italics. .markdown, .md is markdown. Yes. For monospace code that looks like it's code, backticks, which is the key above the tab key on an American keyboard. Don't use the underscores. Just don't be tempted. They're not even supported in other versions. They cause problems. Try not to overlap your formats. So if you have bold inside of an italic, you can do that with Pandoc, but just try not to do that. It can get really messy if you can help it. Headings. Let's do headings real fast. So headings, here's a heading. So a heading, as you see, is just a hashtag. Level 1, paragraphs are here. Level 2, paragraph here. And that's it. Okay, there's a couple of rules here. Please try to only keep one level 1 heading, and that's for SEO. You should really only use one level 1 heading. And when you get into it, when you start to use front matter, you won't even use a level 1 heading at all. Your first level, you'll have lots of level 2 headings. Okay, so here we go. Formatting is allowed in headings. I think I just talked about that. Sometimes formatting in headings can be problematic depending on what kind of renderer you're using. I don't mind. I use formatting in my headers pretty frequently these days. But although I used to have a different opinion on that. So just be aware of that depending on where you're using it. Hyperlinks. If you want maximum compatibility, don't put formatting in your header. That means like italics and stuff. Links and hyperlinks. So how do you link on things, right? The most common link in Markdown is just words you can click on. By the way, on rdbx.gg, these little guillemets are to show you an external link that goes out to something on the internet, whereas underscore is just a link to something locally. That's a convention I really like to follow in my writing. I like to give people, I used to have a little globe symbol there, but I like to give people visual indications that they are going to go leave my site. And because I know I'm kind of annoyed that people don't tell me when you click on things and it takes you completely out, and you go someplace else. So yeah. Anyway, here we go. So here's how you do a link. This is a little bit more complicated. So here is a link. So a link is just square brackets, right? Followed immediately. In fact, this is how it's identified. If you look at the code, it looks for this combination. That's what identifies a real link. So it looks for a bracket, but it looks for this bracket and this parentheses combination, and then it puts the URL here, and then you have the parenthesis here. Now, technically speaking, you can put some other text after that. Just don't do it. Don't complicate your life. Just keep it simple and easy to read because you're going to be editing it a lot. And by the way, Markdown also allows you to do another format where you can put the reference at the bottom of the page. And that is the stupidest thing that Markdown allows. I think it's the dumbest thing, short of like multiple, because why would you ever do that when you're going to cut and paste your paragraphs that have links in them into other documents? What happens to all the dangling references at the bottom of your document? They're completely orphaned and you don't even know. So just hear me out on this. Do not ever separate your links from their links material, or their actual hyperlink. If you do, it allows for it, but just do not do it. I mean, it will look pretty, but if you have a modern editor, I don't know if you guys saw, but if you have a modern editor, who cares? Because it's going to hide it anyway. I mean, we're talking about even Vim hides this. Okay, so like, look, see me here. I'm editing. Let's see. So here, I'm going to edit README file here, right? Oops, wrong one. Let's do a better one. Let's do like markup. All right, so markup, we'll do markdown. So here's my markdown file that I'm editing, right? See this link right here? Not too bad, right? But even the long ones aren't that bad. And they are, this one's not being hidden. I got my hiding turned off right now, darn it. I can't prove it to you. But you can turn conceal on so that when you leave the paragraph, this big, long, horrendous link is not displayed. But if you have a good syntax hider, who cares? You know, it's fine. It's not going to hurt anybody to have it there. And you don't need that level of artistic expression. So what you're sacrificing is artistic expression for consistency. And when you're writing knowledge source, you want consistency because this is your programming language for knowledge. And you want to be able to be sure that all your links are going to be the same way. And again, you haven't violated any, you haven't customized anything or anything like that. So here we go. Back to, what am I doing here? All right, Mr. Rob. This one and this one. Okay. Oops. So that's how you do a link. Oh God, come on, help me. I need more coffee. So that's how you do a link. Reference links. Don't use reference links. I just ranted about that. We're gonna make it. Auto-linked URLs. So auto-linked URLs are URLs that are like in the raw, and they have a angle bracket, this is called, and a bracket right here. By the way, speaking of brackets, I actually have a little thing here I want to go through because we talked about keywords. If you go to rwx.gg/brackets, you'll see what brackets are. And so the term brackets is confusing. Here's a table to remind you. Square brackets are square, curly brackets are curly, they look like braces, and angle brackets are less than or greater than signs used to encapsulate something. Just so you know, that's what those are about. So angle brackets around this. Always use angle brackets. Stupid formats like GitHub, flavored Markdown, have decided to automatically censor your URLs, and they get it wrong all the time. Always put angle brackets around your URLs, because sometimes it'll be HTTPS, sometimes it might be FTP, it might even be a mail to URL. You guys know about these things? So just use angle brackets, always, okay? Here's a good example of like a mail to angle bracket or a telephone angle bracket, you know? And you can do those things, actually. If you do that, those look really good on a phone when they're rendered. You can actually click it, it'll dial the number and everything. It's pretty cool. So images. We're going to jump ahead to images. Yeah, I guess we're laughing about mail to, but you know what? A mail to link on a phone is very valuable because that like automatically opens their mail tool and you can just like type in their message and be done. So images are the same exact thing as links, except for they have an exclamation point in the front. That is it. And hopefully you're trying all of these things as you go. So here is an exclamation point. And this is a local link. So this is a link to something that's on my system. And GNOME. And let's see here. Let's see. Remote images. So that's actually broken right now. Probably because I moved the image out. I'm sorry about that. And so here we go. This is a little bit fancy. What's this doing, people? Anybody want to tell me? What's going on here? What is going on here? This is the most complicated Markdown you will ever see. This is it. If you can understand this, you can understand all Markdown. It's an image inside of a link. Yep. And I'm not. Yes, good job, guys. And I don't want to overstate this. This is as difficult as it gets. Okay, this is it, because this is a format that's designed for anyone to be able to write. Non-technical people, technical people, everyone should be able to write this format, and that's why I love it. I think it's way better than HTML. So here's a list. Lists just begin with stars. It's very intuitive. If you want to have a nested list, you can actually space over 4 spaces. It has to be 4 spaces. And you can put stuff under there. However, I would recommend that you don't go crazy with the really complicated outlines. Humans don't digest outlines like that very well. In fact, I went back on my own site and I was like looking at my day breakdown. See, look at here. You can see it left over. Here's my breakdown with all the stuff in it, right? It's like, which one is easier to digest? This one or these? Right? So I'm not a fan of like really a lot of linked indentation and stuff like that. That's just me. I try to keep it at one list. By the way, if you want to cut and paste this stuff into a blogging service like Medium, you can't use more than one layer of bullets. You can only get one top layer of bullets. So and by the way, you can use lots and lots of things for bullets. If you want to later, that's fine. If you stick with the stars, it'll work everywhere. Okay, so just less to remember. That's what I'm trying to help you out with. If you want to do a numbered list like this, HTML, CSS, blah, you just put ones. Why are they all 1? I get this all the time. It's not, Mr. Rob, it's all 1. Why not 1, 2, 3? The reason for that is what happens when you want to reorder them, right? When you want to reorder them, if you have numbered them and you don't have a fancy editor that renumbers your numbers automatically, which defeats the whole purpose of Markdown. The whole point of Markdown is that it's easy to edit with any text editor, and you don't have to have a text editor that automatically renumbers everything. So if you do it like this, then it will automatically renumber when it renders. So I suggest doing that. There is a little inconvenient because when you're editing, it's like you have to count 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's number 5. If you care about the numbers. So I just suggest using the 1 dots. Pandoc allows lots of other things besides that, but that's just including Roman numerals and blah blah blah. But for now, let's stick with that. Distinguishing star lists from italics and bold. Well, okay, italics and bold are only around words. Okay, so he's asking a question about italics and bold. So italics. The actual code to identify italics and bold and stuff like that is it looks for a space and then a star and then a letter or something, and that's how it identifies it. Whereas a bulleted list is always a star at the beginning of the line followed by a space, blah blah blah. And same thing goes with with the other lists. And so if you look at the parsing, which I've actually attempted 2 parsers for this. Because I wanted to rewrite the Haskell into, Go or something else, and so that's how their parser works. And you want to keep the parser nice and simple anyway. So that's what's going on. How do you remember all this stuff? This is not too hard to remember. Go to rwx.gg/markdown and look it up. But it takes you about 20 minutes to do, and after you've been taking notes for a week, you'll have it memorized. So this is what I suggest you do to take notes. All right. Yeah, I mean. It's like just practice and get better. Just start taking notes. Start taking notes with nothing more than a text editor, and I guarantee you this stuff will start to sink in and you'll start to just use it all the time. It's very intuitive, and you think this is hard to remember. Try to remember HTML. We're going to do HTML in our second segment, in our last segment today. Try comparing this to HTML. Which one would you like to remember? So escaping characters. Yeah, you can backslash to escape any character, but we're not going to talk about that. Normally, you don't need to do that if you stick with the simple stuff. Yeah, it's really not that hard. There's not a lot of extra. Yeah, after this HTML, I'll never, ever go back. And I'll show you in VI how you can render Markdown in the middle of an HTML page without leaving it. Yeah, so... And again, why would you do it this way? Why not use Google Docs? I'm going to let you think about that for a while. Answer that question for yourself. Why would you use this instead of Google Docs? And if you don't know the answer, I challenge you to figure out the advantages and disadvantages of both. I'm not going to tell you the answer straight up. Okay. I want you to figure out why you would want to maintain your notes using Markdown on GitLab versus GitHub or versus Google Docs. They both work, right? So what's better? You know what I mean? I think you guys should come to that conclusion for yourselves. And I don't want to spell it out for you. You should really give this some thought. But the first time you need to make a change and you want to go back to the change that you made last week, I'll tell you right now that on Google Docs, it's not as easy to do that. Or when you're starting to write code or something and Google Docs decides it wants to capitalize something, or MS Word. Oh my God, MS Word. Try writing any kind of coding documentation in MS Word. It's a disastrous fail. It's like, so anyway, let me finish. We're almost done. It takes PowerPoint to take your notes. Yeah, and with Markdown, you can convert into any other format. You want a Word doc? Great. Run Pandoc and you got your format. You want PDF? Great. You want a Kindle doc? Great. So my contention is that the one true way to capture your knowledge is Markdown. And the simplest way to start is this, basic Markdown. So here we go. Here's separators. Separators is one of my biggest complaints. So a separator is just 4 dashes. That's it. Why 4 dashes? Because it's easy and it's one more than 3. Because 3 dashes is used for YAML, which we'll talk about. I don't think we're going to talk about that today. Did I skip structured documentation? Please tell me I didn't. Nope, we didn't. Oh, yeah, here we go. The configuration files and dot files and all that stuff. I'm trying to figure out when we're, yeah, structured text is another day. So anyway, here we go. We do any camel case. Actually, if you're going to do camel case and that kind of thing, I would put it in backticks. Anytime you want to refer to like a piece of code like inline in your paragraph, put it in backticks. So yeah. This line divider, guys, this 4 dashes is one of my biggest complaints about the original Markdown. There are literally an infinite number of ways that you can separate your pages. You can put 3 dots in the middle. You can put any characters you want, any number of characters. I just strongly recommend that you stick with 4 dashes. Why? Because if you have, you can use backticks for everything. If you use dashes for your lines, you can grep them out. Anytime you use it, you can grep it out. You can find it. If you don't do that, you can't. By the way, I skipped something on headers. Markdown supports the use of a god-awful syntax that allows you to actually put dashes under your titles. And I used to be a big fan of that because it looks really pretty in your source code. But it is a, I'm going to say it, bitch to grep it. When you're trying to find all the headers in your file, like right now, if I try to find all the headers in my file right now, how can I find all my headers? Anybody want to guess? Here we go. I'm going to grep all of the things that start with a hashtag. There, I only have level one. Let's see if let's say I want to do multiples of them. I don't even know what that is in egrep. So let's say I want all my level 2 headers. There they all are. Right? Now, I just made a big point about level 1. So level 2 pulls up. See all that? Now, if I had done it this other way that Markdown allows, where I put little underlines under all of my thing and make it look pretty in the source code, I could never grep it like that. Don't do it. Just don't do it. You'll like make your life a living hell trying to deal with your Markdown. And I've just been there. All right. So hard returns. We're almost done here, and we're going to wrap up this one, and you can play around with editing your notes. And may I challenge you, as of today, this is why this is on the 2nd day, is to start taking notes in Markdown about everything we cover, everything. The stuff you're reading, that's a big part of being an autodidact or of somebody who controls their own learning and somebody who's doing their own research. Start taking notes, start writing down, even though you think you know it, write it down anyway, because it'll help to process it. If you like taking notes in a written form, that's fine. A lot of people, people say it's better for you to remember it that way. That's also fine. But spend at least some amount of time writing in this. And if you want to start a Markdown page and call it your blog, you can actually start writing your blog content today and start blogging about your journey through the Beginner Boost in this way. You can actually start writing in Markdown today and say, I had trouble with this, I did this and this. You might actually find it more useful later, depending on how much time you have. And just start out in Markdown. You don't have to even think about what it's going to be. Is it going to be a Kindle book? Am I going to write the notes of, so and so? And it is my epic journey. Is it going to become, a PDF? What's it going to be? Right? You don't even have to care about that right now, because all you need to know is that you need to write in basic Markdown, and any one of those options is available to you later. You can pick up any of those options. Okay. You might not even like this particular editor, and I'm going to let the chat in the Discord suggest alternative editors. There are a lot of other Markdown editors like Joplin for taking. But let me just stress one thing about all the people who chime in with their favorite editors for Markdown. Your best editor for Markdown is your text editor. And as of tomorrow, I'm going to strongly encourage you to use VI as your editor for your thing, no matter how painful it is, because this is your opportunity to practice. And you can take the notes using VI, and you will hate it. It will be frustrating, and you'll want to pull the rest of your hair out. But you're going to learn by doing it, and you can commit to yourself that you really want to learn it, and just force yourself to go through that go through that state. If that is not your thing, fine, you can do it however the way you want, if you want, but make sure that whatever method you're using ties to your Git repo, because as soon as you decouple your tool from Git, you got problems. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, if you've got some fancy dancy, Git management tool, and you just want to open it up and edit it with Notepad on your local system, fine. You can WordPerfect. I love WordPerfect. It's one of the better editors. I wish it would have won. And then so let's finish the Markdown thing. I have 5 minutes to finish the Markdown thing, and then after this, we're going to really torture ourselves. So we're going to jump right into some HTML and make our first web page in the next segment. So roses are red, space. That's a space. Don't actually type that. Violets are blue. If you want to force a hard return, use two or more spaces. And this is actually very useful. Sometimes you want to have the paragraph return early, but still be in the same paragraph as you see here. Roses are red and violets are blue. So that's how you do that. Here you go. You get it if you use the Vim Pandoc plugin. You get a little ligature here that shows you. It's actually not a ligature. It's just a symbol that shows you what's going on. People are afraid that they won't be able to see their two blank spaces. Well, that will show it to you if you use a proper editor. Blocks. Now, blocks are really important. I've only got 5 minutes, so I'm going to kind of scream through this. So please pay attention. Blocks separate text or code from any document, usually as a box. There are two main block types to remember: plain, pre-formatted, and code fences. Code fences is one of the best contributions from GitHub flavored Markdown. I believe it's the only good contribution from GitHub flavored Markdown. So here we go. This is a code fence. So code fence. This is a plain. They call it a fence because it kind of looks like fence posts. And I regularly refer to 3 backticks as fence posts. The standard allows all different types of combinations and numbers of those. Just use 3 backticks. Seriously, people, just use 3 backticks, okay? And then you know where it is. You can find it, and it's standardized. It's supported by Discord. Try this in Discord, by the way. Go to Discord and do 3 backticks, and then actually do the next one, the code fences. So this is just roses red, plain old text, right? But if you do actual code, go do this, try something like this in Discord. So send a message to yourself or to your friend like this with Discord, and it will do full syntax highlighting for you. Slack does not do that. Unless they added something, because the last time they said they did not do that. So yeah, they're called code fences. That's the vernacular for them. People use 4 backticks all the time. 4 backticks is not supported by Discord. Use 3. Just use 3 backticks. 3 backticks is the most universal. If you insist on using your own variation of it, that is fine. You are your own person. I'm just telling you what I've found saves me time and energy by not having to, search all of my code base and my knowledge base, and I can find every single backtick code fence because I have used the same convention throughout, and I've not expressed myself artistically in my Markdown. Okay, so here we go. So let's see here. That I do not have color syntax. I have. If you do have color syntax, this will show colors. Okay, so by the way, here's a short list of the supported tags: MD, JSON, Markdown, JSON, JS, HTML, CSS, and SH. So you can use these little indicators to get the proper syntax for the syntax highlighting. Oh, I'm running short on time. Exceptions for Markdown. I make one exception for Markdown, and this might be a case where you could say, I want to use 4 backticks. In my case, for this exception, whatever exception you use, just make sure that it's consistent across your code base. Okay, my exception is that I use 3 tildes when I want to put Markdown in something. And it is the only, I know it's weird, but it's the only exception that I use. And I put, so this is a case where I want to make I want to make a Markdown document that contains Markdown. It's like one of those inception situations, and I don't, it wouldn't appear properly if I did not do that. So that's the only exception I make. There's like a really weird exception on top of that, which is not even worth mentioning, where you want to include Markdown that is showing Markdown. And that's probably the only other case to make, like, in that case I use 4 tildes, but those are really rare. I mean, that would be it would be only occur when you're doing documentation about Markdown. So anyway, there are an infinite number of possibilities there. Okay, block quotes. So block quotes is a little bit different. I am not a big fan of block quotes. I used to be a huge fan of it, but I'm much less of a fan these days because I use what's called pandoc divs, which I won't talk about until we'll cover pandoc at some point. Note blocks that you have on the site. These note blocks that I'm using are using pandoc divs. And I want to caution you about pandoc divs. They are only supported in pandoc, and they are not supported naturally on GitLab and GitHub. And if you want them, you can actually get the equivalent sort of by using a quote like this. So a block quote is anything that begins with a greater than sign, and it's just everything until the end of that. If you want to do multiple lines, you have to do multiple lines. Can I just really recommend against doing multi-line block quotes? They are so annoying because every time you change something, you have to reformat and put another greater than at the beginning. This is the reason that you'll see me make rampant. I finally gave in and said, screw it. I'm using... It's like this is one of the greatest things about pandoc is I said, fine, forget it. I am going to, this is another thing. So this table here, I'm just showing you some things that are in pandoc that are not in GitHub Flavor Markdown, nor GitLab, nor Common Mark. This is why I use pandoc. So this table that I did here, this is the syntax for tables from pandoc. If you compare it to the syntax for tables in GitHub, you'll see what a disastrous fail GitHub Flavor Markdown tables are. They're absolutely horrible. They actually have tools to create them because they're so complicated. And then if you see here's like Markdown here. Here is you guys are wondering about some of my things. So this is called a pandoc div. I'm just giving you some bonuses here with code blocks right now. Yeah, but it doesn't have these. So it doesn't have the three colons, which is what they call it's called a pandoc div. And what that does is it just turns this section into a div. That's it. Oh, it is break time. Just did a code fence in Discord. Nice. So that would be that. Did I cover everything? What am I missing? So I would just use quotes for quotes, by the way. Here's the rare case where you have a quote with multiple lines. Tables. And this is just me really going off on GitHub. I think they really ruined our world by trying to do tables in a most horrible, complicated way. This is why JGM is very politely says, I'm sorry, no, we're not going to be adopting those in Common Mark. Common Mark doesn't have any tables at all, because the table thing is so toxic and so charged because GitHub has got their table format everywhere, and Pandoc.jgm comes around and does this absolutely ridiculously simple, elegant table format. And he's like, I kind of like my tables better. Let's just decide to disagree. And so we'll make CommaMark not have tables at all, which is why the next step after that is Pandoc clearly. And when you want to take it up a notch and you want to start just adding this kind of stuff, you can do it. It's not HTML specific. Take my break. When we come back, we'll be doing all of the same thing. We'll be making a repo for a website. And I'll show you how you can publish a simple website. If you want to make your private notes public, you can do that. It's not that hard to do it differently, but it'll give us a chance to make an. All right. Blah 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 blah. B boost. Yeah, I want everybody to be able to commit and do whatever. All right. I am back a little bit late. 1 minute. We're going to need every second of this last segment, which is going to go all the way till 2, to make a web page. And I'm not going to pretend to teach you HTML in one day, but we're going to, it's kind of, I call it a walkthrough. I'm just going to show you the process for making a web page, so that if you want to shoot ahead and start doing the web development work in the book, that you'll know how I recommend that you do that. And it's actually not, so far, it's not any different than making notes like you've been doing. So the first thing we're going to do is make another project on GitLab. And of course, this is the leftover project from the other thing. I don't need to stick with this. It's going to yell at me, but that's fine. Where is it? Group projects. Your projects. Oh, here comes the white again. Be careful. Watch your eyes. And then we're going to create a new project. And this time I'm going to call it, by the way, I should probably show you how to delete a project. Let me just show that really quick and be careful. I should show you this because you don't be me. Don't have like 100 unused projects, right? So I'm going to actually go out and delete this project. It's actually really hard. You can use HTML boilerplate if you want. But we're just going to go ahead and we're going to go to settings down here. It's not really completely intuitive. I encourage you as homework today to like really flesh out what all these other things are about. Do your own research about GitLab. Practice using the different things and seeing how it integrates. I think it'll be educational for you. There's no way I can cover the whole thing in an hour or two. But if you do settings, let's see here. You click on settings, if I remember right. And then we go to all the way down to the end. Some people know scream if they add an exclamation point, I don't see it. That's why they're doing it. So if you go all the way to the bottom, and it says here advance, and you click on expand. It's really hard to delete something. Yeah. And you scroll down. It's like, be really careful. Do you want to archive it? Do you want to change it? Sometimes, by the way, a little gotcha here. Sometimes people will think that they're changing the name of their project and they're really just changing the name up above, but they're not changing the slug. They're not changing the path. So you have to do that also. You have to come down here and change it down here. Just that's a common gotcha. And then if you go down here to transfer a project, you can transfer to some other group or you're completely away from, or you can delete it. And this is really annoying. This is why I have so many leftover repos on GitHub and GitLab, because it's so annoying to remove a project. You can't just make one and delete it like a file or directory. You have to actually go through all of these graphic steps. And which is why it's the number one first thing I'm going to add to my automation, but you got to be really careful. I don't want to destroy all my repos. And then they make you type in this little thing here and type notes, and that will delete my notes. So I don't need it. It still shows here because I haven't refreshed. It has to have something right after, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, so there, new project. we're going to click on New Project, and what are we going to get? Well, this time, let's call it www. All right, and it doesn't matter where it goes. I'm going to go ahead and put it under. I guess I mean it really doesn't matter where you put it. Just don't forget it where you put it. It's really easy when you start. You don't think so now, but later on, when you have 100 repos, it's going to be really hard to find things. So I'm going to go ahead and add this one under my individual account, which normally I wouldn't do. I'm just doing that on purpose because I don't want to have it conflict with anything else that I have. And let me recommend the name to you of www. And later on, when we make an actual website, what I'm going to recommend that you do is you make a group that matches your website name. We're not going to talk about that this week. On Namecheap, you go to Namecheap and get a domain name, and then you create a group that matches your domain name, and then under there you have a www project, and you can put the code for your project on that on your domain, and that's just a way to organize it. It doesn't have to be that way, but that's my convention for doing this. So, so that you'll see it pulls it down here and changes the slug. I'm going to keep the visibility private. You can choose. You do not need to make your website source code visible. And there's a pretty good argument against making your source code for your website visible because you can put things in your source code like Easter eggs and things like that people can't see. Do not ever depend on not linking to web content for security. There are tools in the first level of like Hack the Box and other thing to what's called brute forcing all of those URLs, and they will find your stuff. So if you put something in there and you think, oh, this is hidden, nobody knows about it, and my repo's private, fail. Major fail. I mean, they will find everything. In fact, they did that. I had it out of convenience. It was nothing that was really secret. But people ran GoBuster on my site, and they found a bunch of stuff there that I had unlinked because it wasn't really particularly useful. It was outdated, and they were able to find content that I had not directly linked from my website. So don't ever depend on this privacy hiding content that is public, even if it's not linked. Okay. So, but anyway, we're going to make it private. We don't need to do anything more with that. Create project. So again, this is just a repeat of what we did in the last segment. We're just we're adding a thing. Yeah. So yeah. So then you go here and you've got, I did it as an Easter egg hunt for my people, and which is fine because that's teaching them how to use Buster and how to find things out and all that. So I actually did it on purpose, in part to make it an Easter egg, and partially because I didn't want people to directly link. So just don't do that. Okay. So then we have here, this repository is empty. So we're going to add a new file just like before. All of this stuff down here, if you don't understand it, you will tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to do all of this stuff. So then click on new file. I got this window that's annoying. I'm going to close that. And we're doing good on time. Okay, so now we have a brand new file and a place over here that kind of has a soft wrap for us if we want it. And at this time, instead of readme.md, we're going to make a file called index.html, and eventually we're going to show you how to make index.html files out of pandoc files. And if you haven't noticed, if you want to watch me doing this, I do this every day when I'm editing. That's what I'm doing over here. So if you look at, let's say that Markdown file we were just working on. So Markdown. You see in here that there is the README. And I'm going to show you how to make this. Is it next week or the week after? We're gonna make our own knowledge bases that are rendered from Markdown. So you write the Markdown. Here's a Markdown for that page. The stuff at the top is called front matter. We'll get into that another time. And then I run build Markdown, just to give you a little preview of what you're going to be learning. And the build script is relatively simple. If you know Bash, we're going to learn Bash. We're writing some Bash tomorrow, by the way. So this is a basic script. All it does is loop through all the README files and run pandoc on them. And when it does, you get a file called index.html, which is generated from a template and contains all the HTML. Now, which one would you rather write? Not a tough question there, is it? Would you rather? Would you rather write? Would you rather write this, or this? It's rendering as HTML. This. I mean, because this is what you would have to write if you didn't. There's a table. This is just a table. Just a table alone would be so annoying. Next, please. I know. So you can see the difference, and we're going to go through that. All right. So where are we? So index.html is the name of the file, and I'm just going to go ahead and start out a file. And I just want to show you right away that you can put anything in this directory. So hello, my future website. Oops. Website. Just put text in there for now. Who cares? Watch how easy it is to make a website. I mean, we're not going to do any HTML. Just do plain. So just do plain old. Just do a plain old text. Who cares, right? Let's just do text and commit changes. We're going to make a website here in the next 5 minutes. I'm going to publish this whole thing in 5 minutes. Okay, so yeah, so here we go. We have hello. I can't answer that question because I'm in the middle of a thing, modders. So hello, my future website. So this shows that it's just a plain old thing. Well, let's publish it. So this is where another service comes in, and you don't even really have to sign up for this service because it does it automatically. In fact, if you have a ProtonMail account, it won't let you sign up. It's kind of a stupid thing. I don't like that all the services are being really finicky about any email address that's not Google. But it's just the nature of the beast. So we go out to another service called netlify.com, netlify.com. Netlify is a fantastic service for lots of reasons we'll get into in the Knowledge is Source week. But for right now, just understand that this is how you're going to publish your website for free to over 300, 400, 500 servers all over the world. And so what we're going to do here is it says log in and sign up. We can go ahead and click sign up. When you click on sign up, just remember if you're going to do sign up, when you do sign up, click on GitLab. Okay, so if you do sign up, it'll say GitLab, right? So click on GitLab. If you do email and you have ProtonMail, it'll fail. You can use Bitbucket or GitHub if you want. I strongly suggest you use GitLab and just sign in with GitLab. Netlify and GitLab are almost like joined at the hip. They are like really close, you know, in their usage. And so, and if you know about GitHub's Jekyll publishing, this is way, way faster in terms of like delivering your site as well as it's how it's deployed. So here you'll see I'm signed in and I have a number of other sites I built. But this is the button you need right here. New site from Git. Okay. New site from Git. And when you click on new site from Git, it will give you the steps. And it says, where do you want to grab it from? GitHub, GitLab, or Bitbucket. GitHub, and we're going to say GitLab. And then it will ask, oh, that's interesting. Reject request authorization. I do not know why that is. Well, let's pretend like yours doesn't have that error. I don't know if that's because of this or not. It might be because my Brave is not happy right now. I haven't seen that in a while, actually, so I don't know what's going on. I might have to do this in a different web browser. No, there it was. Brave just got in the way. Bitbucket is another hosting service, but I would not use that one. So if you get a 401 unauthorized, turn Brave. Maybe it looks like you have to drop your shields. I didn't know that. So you might have to drop your shields. Okay. I had to drop, if you're using Brave, you might have to drop your shields for this site. I did, and it works. So, and here it looks, if you're using Chromium, did you click on, I don't know, we can work on that. I have to walk through this and then we'll come back and resolve some issues. If that's not working for anybody, help each other out, people, figure that out. But it's supposed to, this is what it's supposed to do. And when it does this, it will show you all of your stuff. And then you can actually change what your group is. I have lots of groups, as I said. So I'm using my plain old user account here, and here is my RDX Rob www project, and that has nothing in it. I'm going to click on that, and it's going to give it a random ownership, and then I'm going to say deploy. I don't even really need anything else besides that. I click on, so you don't need build and command and publish. You don't need any of that. You don't need any of it. You can eventually use it to make a very involved, complicated site that will render every time you commit, but you don't need it. Okay, so really all you need is this. And as you can see now, I have this really, I have this insane site. So my site is now published with this really stupid name that I can change. So I'm going to show you how to change the name. And so you click on Site Settings, and you go down here, and you click on Change Site Name right here, right? And you can pick, this name is unique across all of Netlify, so you can pick whatever. You can pick, it's like, I'm going to say boost, boost, www dash www or whatever. And down here it tells you, you know, what your app ID reference is going to be. You can tell that to anybody in the world, and they can go there to your site. And I'm done. I'm now published, and my site is published. Good to go. Okay, but now this is where it really gets fun. Okay, so my site is now, yeah, I don't re-render that much. I've never actually hit my cap ever, not once. And I regularly commit a lot. But oh, I don't use rendering at all. Oh, you're talking about rendering from the site? Yeah, don't do that. Rendering takes up massive cycle. What he's talking about is you can actually have the site render your static site content. You know, like run the Pandoc thing or whatever you want to build, Hugo, whatever, Jekyll, to make your site. And that's why I actually pre-render everything, and I have never hit a cap. There's an argument against doing that I don't want to talk about right now. We will talk about it more in depth when we get to the Knowledge as Source week, which is not, I don't know if it's not next week, it's the week after that. So we're going to come back to this, but I just wanted to show you how to make a website really quickly. And we have like half an hour or so left to finish our website. But so now here's what's really cool. I can go back to Markdown. Oh wait, where's my, please tell me I still have my, there it is. Okay. So here's my thing, right? I'm not even going to use the fancy editor right now. I can actually, might be a time for us to try to use the fancy editor, but let's just use the plain old editor. So the plain old editor, we're going to use the plain old editor, and now I can start this out. So as you guys know, we're going to do, I call it the HTML5 challenge. What's the first one? Doc type HTML, right? And that is the only one you ever need. You need HTML to go around everything. By the way, I really hate things that try to help me. Because you see how I have to like work around its help. It's just, I just don't like it. So, and then I'm going to say, what goes next? Anybody know? Every HTML document has a head and a body. Inside the head, we'll put a title. Hello there. And then we have a body, and we'll put, we'll do this properly. We'll put a main, let's say we'll give it a header, and inside the header we'll put the an H1 that says the hello world page. You can do whatever you want here, and then we'll have a main section. These are called semantic HTML. You should be using them. If you're not, do it. And then down in main we'll have this is the main part of the page, and you can have a footer, and down here we could have I don't know, we can make a paragraph and put copyright me or something. And yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be that fancy. And to do this right, I should probably make a paragraph here. This is going to suck because it's going to put the paragraph tag. It doesn't know how to wrap. And I I hate graphic editors. I really hate them. So this is the main part of the page. Okay. And then if you wanted to make italics, you could do I, which people are like, oh, isn't that supposed to be EM? No, it's not. HTML5 fully and completely reinstated I and B as italics and bold for the sake of semantic meaning. So don't give me your crap about EM and strong. So go read it if you don't believe me. So there you go. You can't, EM and strong are the standard. That's usually Markdown renders as EM and strong. It doesn't render as I and B. But if you have to write HTML, you don't have to use EM and B. Surge.sh. Yes, I used Surge for the first 3 years of SkillStack. Surge.sh is fantastic. It's a command line tool. We've used it for about 3 or 4 years. The problem with Surge is it's only on a single server. It's not in a CDN of any kind. So that's why I don't use Surge anymore. I really, really liked it. It was my standard. I love the Walrus. It was my standard recommendation for at least 3 years. But I've since moved away from that. Netlify destroyed it really as a service. It's not even really supported anymore, which is funny because there's like referrals and from both services from a single person. Let's see, but Pandoc file. Yeah, so you guys trying to do Pandoc? We're going to teach you how to do that in a little bit. I'm not going to do that today, though. But if you want to try your hand at Pandoc, yes, SO file, do the job. Yes, that's what you're talking about. That's exactly what you would do. Yep, for this example. If you want to add a template, if you want to add a template, it'd be dash template equals if you're doing Pandoc. Otherwise, it's going to use one of their default templates. So we go ahead and we click on save. As you can probably guess, this is what's so amazing. You can put a comment here if you want. Commit changes. There's one warning I want to show you about with the Web IDE that I want to show you. So here we go. There's our web page. Now we go look at the website and we refresh here. Hey, look, I have a site. Huzzah! I have a site. All right, so let's do a little bit of style, and let's do a little bit of JavaScript, and let's do an image, and that will be a basic site. And that's actually pretty much the first chapter of the Bistro project, which is the first chapter of the web design book, which we're going to get to in several weeks. But if you want to jump ahead, you can start getting going on this. You can make your site today. I did want to talk to you about some resources for the web that are out there besides the book. So the main resources, I haven't got us in the documentation yet, so let me just tell you. So I believe when you do searches for web stuff, like how do I make a header in HTML? Some of the first hits are almost always going to be W3 Schools. In fact, this is such a thing. They created a whole site called W3 Fools against the site W3 Schools. It's called W3 Fools. It's a little bit of an Easter egg. But this was in 2011, but they've since caught up, and this comment here basically says, yeah, they're fine now. But it's kind of fun for you to go take a peek at that. W3 Schools does have relatively reliable information, so you can go up here. Oh, back to safety. No, I'm absolutely fine. I don't know what you're talking about. W3 Schools, is that some sort of Trojan version of the same thing? I don't know. I don't care to know. Don't like that. That's probably W3 Schools not liking my Brave, and I don't feel like authorizing it right now. Anyway, so that's one source to go to. If you want to dig a little bit deeper, the other really solid source for information is Mozilla Developers Network. So that's Mozilla Developers Network. Let's see if I can find it. And this is pretty damn good, but it's still not the best. I'm going to tell you the best. Okay. And I found that even Developers Network has problems because it's a wiki, basically, that's supported by lots of people. Do you know where the best source is? Anybody know? Anybody want to guess where the best source is? The MDM? Yeah. Anybody else want to guess where the absolute, positively best source for web stuff is? Not even W3.org. Let's try W3.org. It's a good guess. Let's do that one. W3.org is the organization that created the World Wide Web, right? But what happened? Oh, CSS Tricks is really good, but nope. Stealing other people's source. Paul from next door. So W3C has got a problem. Does anybody on the chat know what happened to W3C and why it's kind of irrelevant today? I apologize, W3C. I don't mean to offend you, but something came along and pretty much stole all their thunder. Does anybody know it? Okay, so it's called... Nope. It's called the Web Working Group. Nope. HTML5, which was created by who, people? I think it's important that everybody understand that HTML5 did not come from W3C. It came from the Web Working Group. So the Web Working Group, the what WG, just in a nutshell, is Google, God, who else? Where's the list? Created by Apple, Google, Mozilla, and Microsoft. So the creators and owners of all of the browsers basically thumbed their nose at W3C and said, you know what? We control everything. So we're going to decide what's going to go down. Basically the same way Netscape did, if you remember, back in the 90s, and said, no, you know what? We like the blink tag and we're going to do it. So NCSA, you know, you can go fly away because we're going to make this. Yeah. And so the What WG community came together, and this is hands down the best source for HTML standards and content creation on the planet. And I challenge you to do your own informal research. And if you run into somebody who's a web developer, if you ask them about where they get their HTML source, I guarantee you the last thing, if they even know about it, is the actual specification. And it's really sad because this is the specification that their jobs are dependent on, and it's constantly living, and it's changed. It was just changed on May 5th. And look at this. And here it is right here. It tells you the HTML syntax. It's fantastic write-ups. It's got examples. It's got end tags. It tells you examples of the tags, how they're properly used. This is the manual. So if you know what RTFM means, this is it. This is the manual for web development. And it includes CSS, it includes HTML. And this is the first place you should go if you have a question. Okay. All the other places are going to pop up earlier in searches, and they have more examples possibly, but this is really the authority. So if you want to actually settle a debate about what something is, read the friendly manual and go straight to it. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for posting the link. And look at this, man. I mean, that's some pretty dang good notes here. You know what I'm saying? It's very useful. There is one other resource for web development that I'm going to cover again in the web development section, but since you guys might run off without me and do a little bit of web development on your own now that you know how to do it, another thing, somebody asks the question all the time, can I use? So let's say, can I use, let's see, what's the really popular tag right now? Okay. Can I use B tag? Big ints? No, not big ints. Let's see. Can I use background? Let's see. I don't know. Let's see what we can find here. Can I use bold? So can I use the bold tag? JavaScript string bold? No, that's not what I want. Come on. Come on, can I use? Don't fail me. No, I don't want to ask if I can use big ints. You think I need them? You think I need brackets? Okay, let's try that. So angle brackets. Can I use B? I feel really let down at this moment because I've never searched for this one thing. And now I'm feeling like it doesn't properly cover what I was asking a question about. Background, sync API, blob construction, jQuery. Maybe this is just a JavaScript thing. HTML for boomers. Yeah, that's the original HTML specification. You know what? I'm sorry. I'm mixing two things up in my head. I am really, really sorry. Can I use this only for JavaScript? So I don't think it's an HTML thing. I could have that wrong though. I'm kind of spacing. Let's try strong because I know strong is in here. Yeah, HTML element. Oh, look at that. Okay, how about this? HTML element B. Yeah, there you go. So HTML element B, it's finally there. It was just a little bit harder to find, so I was wrong. It is actually HTML and CSS and JavaScript. It tells you what browsers are operated in. Tells you, whether it's green or not. Thank your lucky stars. You live in a time when such a thing as evergreen browsers exists. That saved us from the hell that was Microsoft Internet Explorer, which refused and was unable to upgrade its browser on all these, millions and millions of computers, which forced development to an ancient archaic standard. And now all the browsers are evergreen, which means they get upgraded whether you like it or not when you put it on the system. That has a lot of implications for privacy and stuff, but in terms of progress on the web, it's really awesome. IE6 everywhere. Yeah. So anyway, you can get and system administrators too. So it's a good thing. See, look here. There's some things like BDI. I can't use that one, right? That's got some problems here. So this is another site. Okay, so as we're doing really well on time. The last two things I just wanted to show you on making a website was how to integrate styles, and you just get a sense of that. How to add a JavaScript file, and how to bring in an image. And possibly link to YouTube, which people love to ask. So I'm going to go back to the source code here, but now you know where to go when you want to find the stuff. And I will provide links to those things. I just haven't got to all of that yet. I have links to it in other pages. I just haven't got those pages ported to the new RWX site yet. So here we go. We have our index.html. So let's actually, for this next stuff. Oh, wow. Thank you very much. Guys, for this next stuff we're about to do, we're going to go ahead and click on the Web Ide, and we're going to use the more powerful web and dark moded Web Ide. Now, when I go to commit, there's a very important thing that I'm going to tell you in a bit, and I don't want you to miss it. So make sure you stay tuned. And it has to do with master branch. Okay, so thanks, Penguin. So here we go. We have all this thing. Let's go ahead and make a new file. Let's say we want, so HTML is the structure, it's the content of a web page. CSS is the style. It's like what it looks like. So how to add a JavaScript file, and how to bring in an image. And possibly link to YouTube, which people love to ask. So I'm going to go back to the source code here, but now you know where to go when you want to find the stuff. And I will provide links to those things. I just haven't got to all of that yet. I have links to it in other pages. I just haven't got those pages ported to the new RWX site yet. So here we go. We have our index.html. So let's actually for this next stuff. Oh wow, thank you very much, guys. For this next stuff we're about to do, we're going to go ahead and click on the Web IDE, and we're going to use the more powerful web and dark moded Web IDE. Now, when I go to commit, there's a very important thing that I'm going to tell you in a bit, and I don't want you to miss it. So make sure you stay tuned. And it has to do with master branch. Okay, so thanks, Penguin. So here we go. We have all this thing. Let's go ahead and make a new file. Let's say we want, so HTML is the structure, it's the content of a web page. CSS is the style. It's like what it looks like. So we're gonna do that now really quickly. I mean, this is really basic stuff. I don't mean to bore people. And we're gonna type in, I'm getting. Wait, what's going on here? Why am I'm having a feeling that their dark mode might be sort of broken because I can't see what I'm typing. So I am typing main.css. Let's see if it works. What are you talking about? This is really weird. Oh, there it is. Okay, create file. That's their problem, not mine. I want you to know. So main.css, we got that, right? And I'm going to add what I call main. Everybody has their own names, main.js, and that will be the JavaScript. So CSS is the styles. So I'm going to go ahead and make the body of my page. I'm going to select everything in the body of my page to have a very glowing, crazy background. And I'll admit this. I don't know if you can see this, but all of this stuff that people really love about graphic browsers, this IntelliSense is called a language server, is built in. It's built into the Web IDE. So this includes color. So watch, I can do like cyan and it'll tell me what color to type. So what I'm trying to tell you is that if you're just starting out, if you're just helping someone start out, you don't have to install VS Code to get started using web development. Just using the web interface. Now, Replic's got a much better interface for this whole sorts of thing. But the big advantage of doing this with GitLab is that you can use this and you can combine it with your professional workflow, which would be using an actual computer in a local editor and all that stuff, which we will do. So, but I just wanted to just kind of like champion the idea that you can use the editor on GitLab by itself. In fact, I've had an entire block of learning where we did nothing but build games just using the GitLab editor. And it's not that, it's a little bit hard to preview and stuff like that because you have to wait for it to push to Netlify, but it's not that bad. It's really not that bad. So let's go ahead and commit this CSS. The CSS is I'm going to have to get, okay, so here we go. Here's where the danger comes. So when I click, you know what? I think they changed it. They did. Oh, nope. Here we go. Here's the biggest gotcha of all using GitLab. Using the GitLab editor, the web editor. By default, it does the right thing, which makes you make a new branch. And I don't know if you heard earlier today in the other segment, everybody was like, you want to use branches. Branches are good. And I'm like, yes, I know. But when you're doing something like this, an extra branch is going to mess you up. And you're going to put an extra branch down. You're going to save it. You're going to look at your site. And you're like, where's my changes? Changes aren't there. Why? Because they didn't get committed to the master branch. And if you committed to a separate branch, you have to merge the branches and blah, blah, blah. In fact, this is probably one of my biggest annoyances about using the Web IDE, particularly for beginners, because they always forget to click on commit to the master branch. Don't forget that. Click on commit to the master branch and then click on commit. And, it's like, particularly for small projects, involving people who don't know or want to know a lot of stuff, on the command line. The really great thing about GitLab, I'm going to say it one more time, is that when they grow into those professional workflows and structures, they're already ready because the stuff is on GitLab already and they can download it and use Git and use their favorite Git tool or command line or whatever. And so we're going to do that. All right. So you saw here it committed the CSS changes and it's on the thing. Now we need to make the changes show. So to do that, we're going to actually have to add our link. And we're going to add I wonder, well, that's not as good as VS Code. Usually when you type a link in VS Code, it'll give you a bunch of standard links that you can use. And in this case, I'm going to have to remember it from scratch. And I think it's style sheet equals style sheet. You guys are going to laugh at me because I have to look this stuff up all the time. It's been a long time since I've done web development too. So, and then we have to say, I think it's is it href or source? I can't remember. What kind of person am I? Main.css. I think that's it. Anyway, so I didn't need. I'm gonna cheat and look at the people who know what they're talking about. Is it SRC? It is. It is SRC. All right, fine. SRC and I mix those up all the time. You do not need quotes; they are not required by the standard, unless you have crazy comments, like stuff in there. And I'm not ashamed of doing that. People will scream at me. It's because it is a link. No, I don't. Well, you know what? Let's find out. I'm so sorry that I don't know. I wasn't planning on getting that crazy with it. I fine. So we're gonna commit this again. Is it committing to the master branch? Yes. I don't. I mean, you know, I don't mind looking these things up. Someone now is your time to tell me if you had a real editor, it would have been fine. You could have looked it up. Or I could have just done a search for it. Yep. So here we go. I just don't like graphics. And as you know, I don't use them very much. So I would be looking at another file that does it already. Commit to master. You know, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to cheat people. I'm not above cheating. Where's my link? Link style sheet href. It is href. All right, good. Good. And I linked to main.css. And now when I go back to my hello there page, I should have a cyan background. Yep, there it is. So we have our colors. I mean, it's grotesque, and we're going to be doing a lot more with this than that. So I don't want anybody to get the idea that that's the extent of your development. I just want to show it's possible. And then the last thing we're going to do is bring in a JavaScript page, a JavaScript file. And so inside of the JavaScript file, we'll just put console.log hello there. And from the console, you can do fancy colors and all that stuff. I don't want to do it right now. But you just commit, and that commits it to the master branch. It shows you the changes. It previews it. That's new. They didn't used to do that. Anyway, so changes are made. However, I haven't linked it in here. And I'm doing commits for everything, which is normally not a good thing in circles where people care about keeping their commit history clean. You know, they'll yell at you for doing that. You don't care right now because you're just learning and you're using it as a backup method. Okay, so we're gonna do scripts here, and then we're gonna say src equals main.js, and that has a period in it, so I have to put quotes around it. Single or double. Double is the convention, even though I hate double quotes because they're harder to type. It's just, they're not that much harder, I know, so I'll just do it. Here's the thing that really drives people crazy batty, is that you, it's like, well, what's going on in here, right? Well, you can actually write, you used to be able to write code in here, and then they added the SRC, so it's really too bad you can't link a JavaScript into the top. That's just one of those artifacts of history. It would have been great if you had been able to do that, but you can't, so you have to do it that way. I wish somebody would add a link support like that, but every single browser would have to support it, which means having a good idea doesn't necessarily get it adopted because it has to pass all of the other rigmarole. And then we're going to right-click, inspect. Oops, view page source. You see that there? That's not what I wanted, though. Right-click, inspect, and then you see here's all my page. It's got my dark reader additions in it, but on the console, if everything went well, we have hello there from the console. So now we have the 3 pieces of our web page, and we have time to add a picture. So I'm actually going to answer a little bit of comments that way. I wish somebody would add a link support like that, but every single browser would have to support it, which means having a good idea doesn't necessarily get it adopted because it has to pass all of the other rigmarole. And then we're going to right click, inspect, view page source. You see that there? That's not what I wanted though. Right click, inspect. And then you see, here's all of my page. It's got my dark reader additions in it, but on the console, if everything went well, we have hello there from the console. So now we have 3 pieces of our web page, and we have time to add a picture. So I'm actually going to answer a little bit of comments. Well, I tell you what, let me go ahead and add a picture, and then I will do that part. So to add, I don't need that anymore. So to add a picture, let's go find a picture. I mean, I don't know. I guess I could do Gnome Rob. So I don't know. What should I add? .gg assets. I don't know which picture should we put in here? I guess I could. I think I have a picture already. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Well, I know where there is some. This decision about what picture to use is like taking all the time. So, so let's go to John Wick. I like that example. John Wick. I don't want to search for pictures on a YouTube stream because that's a bad idea. So somebody's going to sue me for using John Wick, but I don't care. Oh gosh, not that one. Oh, that's the, whoa, somebody modded GTA. Interesting. I guess you can't really have a picture of John Wick without a gun. You know, it's weird. I don't think of John Wick as a gun-toting killer because that's what he is. He's a dog owner to me. He's a dog owner. There's John Wick. All right, we'll put that Keanu Reeves up. The nicest guy in Hollywood, apparently. And we're gonna like save image as downloads. Save to the downloads. We're gonna go back here. Can't put it on there, so I have to go find my editor. Where is my editor? Here it is. And I click on the upload button, and I go find my downloads. And there should definitely be a John. Is this it? Keanu Reeves, John Wick. Yep. And we'll open that. And there he is. I mean, that's a big old picture. But okay. And now let's put it into our thing. So let's click on the HTML. Go back to the HTML here. And you know what? They didn't used to have a previewer for pictures on there. That's kind of cool. Do I have to commit? Okay, fine. I'll commit. Have I said how much I don't like graphic editors? Have I said that yet? Okay, commit. And so then, waiting for them. Okay, so then I'm going to close this. I'm going to go back to the index.html. I'm going to put the picture in here. I could make it the background. I can make it the foreground. Let's just go ahead and put it in the main page. img src equals. Oh my gosh, that name is way too long. We'll just put Keanu dot. Is it a JPG? What kind is it? We're going to talk about image types, by the way, because you need to know what they're about, particularly if you're going into security. .jpg, and that should just pull the image in. And this does not have an end image. If you read things that tell you to do this, they're old and outdated. That's old school XHTML, HTML4. You don't need that anymore. Meta tags maybe, but not there. So that's an image source for Keanu Reeves. It's going to be really big. Actually means I need to rename this. Rename you to Keanu. What is going on with my browser? Oh well. I'm going to survive. Once again, graphics fails me. It just knows I hate it. That's why. Graphics tools know that like deep down I really dislike them. And they just know it, and they punish me for it. All right, so Keanu.jpg, and then I'm going to commit that. And again, to master, I know that's an involved process because we're committing something to the internet. We're not just saving a file; we're saving it to something. That pop-up's getting super annoying. And I think we have all of the changes here. And I can actually go over and look at the site. And if I refresh, I should have Keanu, and there he is. So we have Keanu there, and we have our horrible web page. But my point is that you can get going on your editing today, and you can use GitLab both for doing some early stage web development that will persist. It will stay with you. It will grow with you, as opposed to using Replit, where you have to copy everything over to something you're going to use as a professional workflow later. All of the stuff we just did is much, much, much easier on Replit if you just want to play around with the book and just learn. But if you are willing to suffer through these little inconveniences, the stuff that you are working on through the book or on your own site will go with you when you start to use, the big tools, the real tools. So that is what is up with that. I am about ready to call it. We have 5 minutes left, so I'm going to go ahead and read some chat messages just to wind up. And let's see, Zero Theory says there's something. Are all these steps going to be on your site? Yes. My GitLab went haywire. Screw it. I'll figure it. You can figure it out just by looking at GitLab and trying all of that stuff. I strongly encourage you to look at that stuff. You're supposed to. Oh, that's really nice. My web page does look terrible. Your web pages are going to look horrible. I do recommend writing notes in VI as soon as possible. Tomorrow, just so you guys know, the calendar for tomorrow. And by the way, if you want to look up the daily events, what they're going to be, go to rwx.gg/week1. And I'll send you that really quick. So if you want to go see, this is week 1, and this is going to be changing a lot over the time, especially, I think that today's day was just about right. I'm really glad I didn't try to push more into there, and I did have some more stuff in there. So we learned Markdown. We learned how to use the GitLab and the GitHub. We talked about why. We learned to use our keyboard properly. We talked about different types of keyboards. I mentioned I was going to go ahead and make a keyboard group. So, hardware subcategories so people can post their hardware ideas in there. We had a peek at web development, what that means and how it works. We didn't really get too far into it. And then we did publish our first code on Netlify. So at the end of today, and you should work on this if you don't have it today already, you should have a GitLab account. You should have a GitHub account. You should have a GitLab repo created, possibly a GitHub group that matches, that has your real name instead of, a GitHub group and a GitHub individual account. And then within one of those, you should put your www and your notes. And in your notes, you should start writing your notes in Markdown. And I strongly encourage you to write a full set of notes about Markdown that includes all of the basic Markdown things that we covered that are linked from the day here, so that you have basic Markdown. You can start using it to take notes. Above all, the number one priority for today is taking away the ability for you to take sustainable notes for the rest of the boost. We are not going to come back to how to take notes. We're not going to talk about tools, and you can do all that in the Discord, but I won't be talking about it anymore after today. Okay, so you should have all of that. If you want to explore web development and you're jumping ahead and doing that web development, you can go ahead and start playing with that now that you know about how to publish and edit on GitLab. Tomorrow, the day will be entirely dedicated to terminal. And I have a feeling there's more stuffed in today as of this moment than I think I can get through. And I'm going to be revising that tonight and going through it. But as of now, tomorrow will be terminal all day. And that includes getting a terminal running on your system. I didn't say Linux. I said a terminal. And actually, I did say Linux. I said Linux terminal. So getting a Linux terminal, I don't necessarily mean that you have to install VirtualBox. You have to install Linux on your hardware. We're going to talk about the fastest way to get Linux running on your computer tomorrow. And we're going to come back we have an entire week dedicated to running Linux. And that involves, all of the different ways to run Linux. So it's not a Sigma tutorial. No, it is legitimately Linux. So in Windows, we're going to be using WSL. If you know what that is, if you follow this link, by the way, I've written a great tutorial that I've now tested with 4 or 5 different 12-year-olds who made it without a hitch. Every single one of them got WSL without a problem. Mac is tough. If you have a Mac, you cannot do what we're going to do from Bash on the command line. There is going to be problems. So if you choose to use a Mac, first of all, I think you should find another computer instead of using your Mac. But if you have to use a Mac, your best option is to install VirtualBox and Pop! OS, which is jumping way ahead to how to use virtual machines. So if that's your choice, go for it. If you want to try to struggle through using whatever your Mac has on it, whether it's Z Shell or Bash or ancient Bash, that's your choice. But a lot of the stuff that we do from here on out will not work because it's just incompatible with the GNU tools, and because it's using BSD and it's not even using Linux at all. So this is a Linux boost. This isn't a free BSD boost. This isn't a Darwin boost. This isn't a Mac terminal boost. This is a Linux boost. So Linux, if you have it, you already know how to use it. If you want to spend some time installing Alacrity, go for that. Again, I'm reviewing what you can do between now and tomorrow. OS2, yeah. So again, tomorrow we're going to try to get through. The main thing we need to do is get our terminal activated, connect it to GitLab and GitHub using SSH Keygen. There is a tutorial about SSH Keygen if you want to jump ahead and try to do this tonight or today. We are going to write two shell scripts tomorrow. We're going to write a very simple, SSH Keygen, you don't need SSH Keygen in the store. You can just, once you have, if you're going to try to do this tonight, follow the WSL first. Okay. Writing, shell scripts in Bash. So if you're going to try to do this tonight, follow the WSL. I cannot emphasize this enough. Follow this first, and then you can maybe try to get SSH Keygen and follow the steps for SSH Keygen. Okay. We're going to go even one step further, and we're going to enable your keys. At the end of the day tomorrow, you will have a terminal that works with GitLab. That's what you'll have. And you'll have a couple shell scripts to help out. You'll have a save script that you might, just like we did with Web today, you might not understand it all, but it'll give you an overview. It's a walkthrough of how to write your own save scripts. So you don't have to run like 8 Git commands to do it. And then we'll also, if we have time, we'll do a little magic 8-ball shell script in Bash to kind of get you, give you a feel for Bash scripting, and kind of have fun on the terminal. It's pretty fun and easy to do. It's not too hard, and it's kind of a get your feet wet kind of activity, because they publish under